Hello and welcome to part 2 of our Hapara 101 series. In this section, we begin our dive into the Hapara interface. And what better place to start than the dashboard? We will cover the most important sections of this interface with special attention to one of Hapara's most powerful features, Smart Share. We will also take a quick look at how to use Hapara to manage Google Sites and Blogger. When you first open a class in Hapara, the dashboard is where you will begin. Like the class management view we saw last time, we have a series of boxes on the screen, but this time each box represents one of our students rather than a whole class. Inside each of our student boxes, we can see the contents of that student's subfolder for this class. By default, Hapara arranges the items within each student box with the most recently updated at the top. We will go over more of this view during the demonstration. For now, let's take a look at the 3 icons in the upper right corner. These icons represent some of Hapara's most powerful tools. Starting from the left, we have Open Tabs. This tool allows you to open tabs to students on their Chromebooks and even force the student Chromebooks to view only sites or pages that we choose. We will go into this tool more in detail in Part 5 when we discuss Hapara's Highlights module. In the middle, we have Send Message. This allows us to send a text message to a whole class, a group, or an individual student. Finally, on the right, we have Smart Share. Smart Share is one of Hapara's most useful tools. With this feature, you can easily give each of your students their own copy of a master document with their names added to the file name and proper sharing settings ready to go in their class folder. We will see this feature in more detail during the demonstration at the end of this video. Now that we've seen a little about the tools in the upper right, let's move down the page and see what we can do with student folders. Here we can see that Student 5 has a fancy drawing, some spreadsheet, and a Google Doc called Hapara Assignment in their class folder. Let's take a look at the options in the context menu in the upper right of the student box. The first option is a shortcut to take you directly to that student folder in your Google Drive. The second option will open a new email to that student in Gmail. The third option will allow you to add or remove this student from one or more groups to aid in communication or differential learning. The final option will open a private Google Doc where you can make notes about this student. The last section of this video will be a quick demonstration showing Hapara's dashboard in class management. To start the demonstration, let's break down our view. In the main portion of the window, you can see the teacher view, which is just showing Google for the moment. In the bottom right, we have a student machine, so you can watch from their perspective as well. If we need that in more detail, we can zoom in later for a better view. To start with, we will point the teacher browser to teacherdashboard.com. The first thing that Hapara gives us is our Manage Classes window. You can see here I have a couple of example classes set up, my Hapara PD class and my Advanced class. In the case of my Advanced class, I've changed the label to red just to help keep myself straight on which one is the advanced one. You can use those to help organize yours if you have a number of classes. We could, of course, click on the class links directly here, or we could use the pull-down menu which Hapara makes available so we can easily switch between different classes. We'll do that now. And here we have the dashboard for my Hapara PD class. We have our 10 students here, broken up into a number of different groups. You can see, for example, Student 1 we have grouped into ELL, and Lit IEP support, and it looks like he's working on Romeo and Juliet. If we want to filter this list of students down by our groups, we can pull down the groups option here and choose one or more groups to show. For example, let's take a look at everyone who's working on Hamlet. Here we can see we have our 3 students assigned to Hamlet, and it looks like we have another ELL student in this one as well. We'll go back up here and we can either deselect Hamlet, or we can simply check the Show All box to get back to all of our students. Let's take a look at the individual student boxes. So over here in Student 1, you can see that we have a number of different items inside this student's Hapara PD class folder. So this isn't things inside the class folder, but inside the students folder inside that class. And if we mouse over one, for example, this Hapara example assignment, we get a few additional details. We get the full title, the author, some information about when it's been last updated, and who has access to that file. We also get a convenient preview to show us what that's going to look like. If we need more information, we can dive straight into that in Google Drive simply by clicking on the icon right here. Let's do that. We get a new tab, and Hapara loads up this student's assignment for us in this case here. We can see that this was a structured book report that this person hasn't yet started. Let's go ahead and close out of that and take a look at some of the options that we have for each individual student. In the context menu up here, we have a few options. We have the Open Folder button. If we click on that, it's going to take us to our Google Drive and to that student's specific student folder inside of our Hapara class folder. So we don't have to hunt around for it. Let's click out of that and close the tab. We also have the option to email that student. If we click on that, it'll load up our Gmail account with a pre-filled out email for that student account. If we choose the next option, Edit Groups, we have the option to add or remove our student from these groups. If we go ahead and hold our mouse on one of them, we can see what those groups mean individually. So if we needed to add this student to, say, remove him from Romeo and Juliet and add him into Hamlet, we can do that like so. Now when we filter our list, our student will be available in that Hamlet group. There we are. Let's take a look at some of the other options that Dashboard makes available. In our subsections here, you'll notice we have Google Sites, Blogger Posts, and Blogger Comments. Let's take a look at Sites. If we look at Google Sites, we can see that student 1 has been working away on a website, and we can see a timeline of their activity. We can see that they deleted a few things, they edited a page, they created one. You notice if we mouse over these, we don't get the detail that we got from the class folder because these are a little more complicated as Google Sites. If we click on, for example, this article here, we'll be taken to that page on that student's site asking if we are ready to be a pirate. Let's go ahead and close that out. Now let's take a short look at Hapara and Blogger. If we look at the last two options in the dashboard section, we have Blogger Posts and Blogger Comments. Let's take a look at Posts. Under Student 1 and Student 2, we have a few different posts. Let's take a look at what Student 1's looks like. If we go ahead and click on that, it'll take us straight to that blog post and we can see it along with a few comments. Let's take a note of these. I'm still here and this is like 4 years ago. We click back to our teacher dashboard and we go ahead to the comments section. We can see those two comments underneath that student's blogger section. And if we mouse over those, we can get a preview of the full comment, just like we saw in the real interface. Finally, before finishing this presentation, let's take a look at one of Hapara's most powerful features, Smart Share. Smart Share is the icon here in the upper right. But first, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my classroom folder so that I can use the groups I have in my classroom folder here. For example, if I wanted to share with all of the members that are working on Macbeth, let's go ahead and click on the Smart Share icon. We can share up to 5 files from our Google Drive, or we can use one of the buttons here to create a brand new file. Let's do that now. We're going to create a new document. Let's name it Macbeth Act 1 Essay. We're going to leave the permissions at copy, although we could choose to share this essay read-only, read comment, or read-write, just like any other Google Doc. By leaving it on copy, we're going to create an individual copy that belongs to each student that we select to send this to. I'm going to click Append Name so that we get the student name at the end of our new document. We don't need to worry about replacing an existing file because we're creating this brand new. And then we're going to choose who to share it with. We could, of course, choose the whole class, but this is a Macbeth essay and it doesn't really make sense. We could choose our individual students if we knew off the top of our heads who was working on what. But we're going to use our groups that we created already. We'll clear our existing groups, and we'll go ahead and choose to send this to our Macbeth group. So let's Smart Share that to one group. Hapara is going to give us a progress bar down here at the bottom, and you'll see it's the number of files that we wanted to share times the number of students we're sharing with. So in this case, 1 times 3. It'll take a moment, but that file will get created and sent out to each of our students. Here we can see 1's done, 2, and 3. If you're sharing with a whole class or with multiple classes, keep in mind that this can take some time. All right, let's go ahead and sort our groups just down to our Macbeth. And we can see that each of our Macbeth students now has a Macbeth Act 1 essay, and that our names for each student have been appended to each one of their own individual copies. They can now work on these and fill them out without needing to worry about any of the sharing settings. That concludes our Hapara demonstration for the dashboard section. Please check back with our future videos where we'll cover sharing, highlights, workspaces, and class info, all the tabs across the top of the page here.